And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 24th day of January 2023. It's 28 degrees and an overcast day in Brisbane. Hey, once again, it's wonderful to have your company back on the show. Well, what do we have for you today? The daily news and, of course, the daily India report. Well, Lunar New Year, excellent. And you know how many people who would have celebrated around the world? Over 1 billion. Here's that report.
Celebrations years in the making. Since the global pandemic began in Wuhan 4 years ago, Chinese New Year hasn't been the same. But with COVID restrictions finally gone, residents are welcoming the festival with a bang. Across Asia, the lifting of pandemic controls has been a theme. At a temple in Jakarta, prayers and blessings for the year ahead.
During COVID restrictions, we were all cautious, even though we had to limit the number of visitors, because one infected person can affect so many others. Thank God it's now back to normal.
In Taipei, monks welcomed the Year of the Rabbit as families entered holiday mode for the next week and a half. But ahead of the reunions, a final dash for gifts, including auspicious plants.
People like to buy lucky bamboo and butterfly orchids. When the flowers open, everyone loves it. You put a few in your house and it makes it more lively and cheerful.
She says business is picking back up after COVID restrictions put a dampener on festivities in Taiwan last year. Borders across the region have reopened in the past 12 months, but the most dramatic change is within China. The recent wave of COVID deaths after the reopening has cast a solemn light on this year's holiday for tens of thousands of families. The economic hit from the mass outbreak is also likely to stall a quick rebound in international travel from Chinese tourists. But with more flight routes resuming and 500,000 people a day now crossing the border, the return of Chinese tourists to Australia is only a matter of time. China's opening up is expected to bring benefits around the world. But this week, it's all about those families, both in China and with relatives in China, able to finally reunite after so long. A happy New Year indeed.
And Happy New Year indeed. And last night there was a great celebration at the Brisbane City Council, the civic reception by Lord Mayor, and it was a jam-packed and a very wonderful message from Lord Mayor Adrian Srina and all the multicultural community leaders who were present at that ceremony. And tomorrow night we have a celebration with the Taiwanese community, which we will be celebrating, and of course we went to the Vietnamese one. Now it's slightly different there. Vietnamese is the ear of the cat, and of course Lunar New Year is the ear of the rabbit. So there we go. Well, right now, moving on, and of course in the weekend we had the 6th Sthapna Divas on Sunday of Vishnu Maya Mandir, a very wonderful celebration. Last night we met all the people from QPS and they were all talking about the reviews sent in by Senior Sergeant Sindel Richardson and how she was blown, for the hospitality and the warmth that she, friendliness that she received at Vishnu Maya Mandir. We'll bring to you some glimpses and other things by the weekend in another form, but it was just wonderful to see everyone come together. All the dignitaries who came there, they were all very, very happy as well. Well, not on a very happy note is what's happening up in Alice Springs. We know that we will be getting some of the councillors to come in here and talk to us about this youth crime. And youth crime is on the increase, and it is very, very concerning. And right now, Peter Dutton is calling on Prime Minister to visit Alice Springs and see firsthand what's happening. And if the need be, send the federal police there as well.
Young people sneaking into locked buildings, smashed windows, CBD assaults. It's scenes like these that have prompted the federal opposition leader to weigh in once again.
The police are throwing their hands up in the air. They're overwhelmed with the amount of work. So do I think the Australian Federal Police should go up? Absolutely.
Alice Springs has been dealing with a relentless crime wave for months, with newly released statistics showing commercial break-ins, family violence and property crime continue to surge on the year prior. From today, liquor giants are limiting some alcohol supplies to help halt the violence. Mr Dutton says wider Australia hasn't properly tuned in.
If the level of violence, of crime, of sexual assault, of domestic and family violence was occurring in Brisbane or in Melbourne or in Hobart or in Sydney, there would be outrage.
It's totally rich for Peter Dutton to come out having a say now when he was completely silent in his time in the Scott Morrison government.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese responded, saying while the issue is concerning, he won't be deploying the AFP. We are focused on working in partnership with the NT government and the local community because we know that the best solutions come from local communities themselves.
If you empower local communities to step up and stand up, they will find the solutions.
NT authorities also rebuffed calls for the Federal Police to move in.
I'm quite comfortable with the Northern Territory Police's response to this particular matter.
Crime hasn't been limited to Alice Springs, with prominent Darwin restaurant Hunneman also reeling. On the weekend, it was broken into for the 12th time since 2018.
It's very costly for all businesses, just not us. I'm pretty sure everyone in Northern Territory can associate with that.
The human cost of an ongoing crisis with no easy fix. Matt Garrick, ABC.
And it needs to be kept. And I was talking to Councillor Angela Owen last night at the Lunar Festival reception at the Brisbane City Hall. And she is quite willing to come in here and talk about the youth crime. We will need to get that going as soon as possible. And as you can see, it is on the rise, not only in the Alice Springs, all around, even right here in Brisbane as well. So what is happening? Where did we go wrong? What do we really need to do? I know that they're talking about strict penalties and harsher and more strict terms, but that is after the fact. How do we stop it happening in the first place? How do we educate our young ones? How do we get the message out there to the person whom it really needs to get to, and how do we get across to them? That, my dear friends, is the big challenge. Well, right now, the other challenge, we live in Queensland, don't we? Don't we love the outdoors? Don't we love the sunny days, the sunshine, and beautiful? But they say too much of anything is bad. And this report finds that Queensland is the world capital of skin cancer. That's a damning report.
Why are we seeing these numbers increase, do you think?
Lisa, there are many reasons for this. In part, it's due to Australia being the lucky country and Australians living longer. So the skin we are in has to last us a long lifetime. And in part, it's due to aging of the population that we're still seeing skin cancers increasing. But in part, it's also because we are getting sunburned every year.
What are you seeing with behaviour outdoors? It's not just on the beach, it's when people go walking in the morning or when they're working on building sites. I know I was in Coolangatta over the holidays and, gee, try telling teenage nieces to, follow up with SPF every couple of hours or cover up when they're wearing the most fabulous latest gold bikinis. They don't want to do it.
Exactly. And so that's exactly right, Lisa. And one of the main reasons why we have set these new skin cancer prevention targets is to give us all a goal to work towards. And we will have to use really targeted messages, reaching all these different sections of our population with the right message. So very different for the teenage girls that you mentioned compared to the outdoor worker who is outdoors every day.
So if our behaviours are not what they should be when it comes to the sun, and it takes a long time for skin cancers to reveal themselves, does that mean the situation's going to get worse before it gets better?
Well, we are hoping that if we all take immediate action and are conscious about the importance of keeping our skin healthy for a longer time, that we will achieve the 5% reduction by 2030 that we have set. But we need this concerted action and the targeted messaging coming from all sides of society, and especially also the advertising industry is called upon to look at their current display of the bronzed Aussie as desirable and change it maybe to fashionable hats and fashionable outdoor wear that is sun protective.
So who are the groups most at risk?
Well, definitely people who have fair skin and they know about it anyway, that they don't really agree that much with the sun, and they often protect themselves quite well. But it's also people with sort of medium skin, medium-colored skin, and also people who have to be outdoors for certain reasons unexpectedly. This is, as you mentioned, Lisa, often now when we get caught out and we get sunburned, when we don't expect to be out for a long time, but then stay out a little bit longer at that school event or at that sport event, and that's where we get sunburned quite regularly.
Yeah, and you've got 2030 as the target. We all know, of course, what's coming in 2032. Is that on your mind as well, the Olympics?
Yes, absolutely, Lisa, you are quite right, and we are hoping that this is another motivating factor, that we will have sun-safe Olympics. We will have lots of trees planted to have shade. We have sunscreen at every sporting venue. We are trying to look at the sporting uniforms, whether something can be done to improve the coverage of the body, and many other components that need to be done. So there's lots to do.
Yeah, just finally, Monica, what happened? You know, Slip, Slop, Slap was considered a pretty good campaign in its time. Why don't we see that or something similar on the screens every year?
Yes, Lisa, so you are quite right. Slip, Slop, Slap, we are worldwide known for this campaign, and it's actually currently being reinstated. It is running at the moment, but there was a 10-year gap, and so that what happened was that a whole generation of Australians wasn't exposed to this campaign, and so it's now being restarted, and hopefully will be in everybody's mind again very soon.
And hopefully, yes, it will be in everyone's mind. I remember that very, very well. We all used to say that, slip, slop, slap. And right now, people have sort of gone away from that, as was mentioned in that report, that we might have had that little bit of a break into the system, but we really need to get that going, especially coming into the 2032 Olympics. And it is, let's make it a sun-safe competition, and let's promote that as much as we can. Of course, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, that we love the great outdoors, we love to be out there. And one of the things is, if you're not out in the sun all the time and then you have to go in the sun once in a while, you are highly likely to get sunburned. And of course, people with dark skin and brown skin as well, many times we are not immune to this as well. Even though it might not seem, but we always tan as well, and our skin reacts as well. Of course, the degree of reaction is always based upon your skin and the skin quality as well. Everyone is different, and everyone will suffer differently, and the consequence will be differently. But always take care, slip, slap, and slop. Well, right now, we are into the solar age. Everything's going solar and electric, and that way. But I've mentioned this a few times now, that there may be things that we don't know about yet, which, if we overuse any system, any resource, that there could be possible repercussions down the track. But at the moment, what are we doing with all these solar panels when they go bad? When they turn into waste? What are we doing that? How are we dealing with that? Here's that report.
Recycling solar panels isn't an easy task. Each panel has to be pulled apart and the components separated, making it time-consuming and costly.
So at the moment, it would be cheaper to put them into landfill than to recover them.
Solar is meant to be a renewable energy, sustainability-related product. Getting the best recovery out of a solar panel is probably more paramount than any other product.
But Deakin University researchers think they've found a solution. They've discovered a way to extract valuable nanosilicon from the panels without using the toxic acids currently needed for the process. A method they say is both cheaper and better for the earth.
There are many other technologies around the world, but most of the technologies are complicated, multi-step, time-consuming.
And it's a process that could prove lucrative for solar recycling firms. Nanosilicon sells for huge sums on the commercial market.
We would be ecstatic if we could achieve that at the moment, of course. It's some incredible numbers, $45,000 per kilo for nanosilicon.
Deakin's is one of a number of Australian research projects looking at ways to improve solar recycling. The next step is to test whether these new technologies work on an industrial scale.
To try and not only separate the panel and the cell, but do it in a way that it's financially viable as a business model, not just lab scale.
Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek recently told Parliament she will regulate solar panel recycling and put pressure on industry to step up and do their share. Otherwise, she says about 250,000 tonnes of these products will end up in landfill by the end of the decade.
Rachel Clayton, ABC News, Geelong.
So there you go. This is one of the first things that are coming out. And as I had mentioned, Lauren, before, that solar is the way, and you can see all the building roofs. I can see them up from where we are. We are on the 29th floor where our studio is, and we can see many roofs which were previously just corrugated iron or clip lock. Now you can see that they all have solar panels on them, which is good, which is not bad, but also we have to look at if it's used in such a large scale, such, so much that it's extracted, it is going to have some kind of environmental effect, even though it's meant to be clean energy. Well, right now, going overseas, before we go to our daily India report, let's go to our neighbouring country, New Zealand, with the new Prime Minister coming in. Good choice or no?
Well, Chris Hipkins is a seasoned politician. He's been in Parliament since 2008. He entered at the same time as Ardern. They've worked closely through the COVID pandemic. He's held multiple ministerial portfolios. He became a familiar face to many New Zealanders through the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, where he was the COVID-19 minister. So he's certainly seen as a safe pair of hands to take Labor through to the election in October 2023. And actually, he was the only person who ended up putting their name forward for the post, and so he was the number one choice.
Well, he says he'll focus on inflation and a fairer tax system when he takes over, and that's ahead of October's election as well.
Yes, absolutely. He's narrowing his focus away from Ardern's transformational arguments that took her into 2020 and has taken her through till now. And instead, he's having a laser focus on the economy and what it means for most New Zealanders, particularly those that are struggling under those inflationary pressures and the impacts on increased mortgage rates.
Under some of the policy changes, though, it's possible that two controversial planned policies will be axed. First, the plan to merge TVNZ and Radio NZ. What do we know about that?
Well, that's been on the table for the last few years. It's been highly controversial. What they've been talking about is bringing those two media platforms together. There's a lot of pushback from New Zealanders, and coming into the election, trying to sort of strip out all of those areas that could allow them to lose votes will be one of the goals of Chris Hipkins.
I just love that Kiwi accent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think he is a good choice, and it is a very good strategy as well. When you're coming up to an election and when the new leader comes in, he's already got his foot in the door. He builds up the rapport with the electorate, and the voters know who he is, what he's going to stand for. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged countries of the Global South to work together for the global agenda to respond, recognize, respect, reform. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on January 12 virtually addressed the inaugural session of the Voice of Global South Summit. In the opening remarks, the Prime Minister said that the world is in a state of crisis and asked the leaders to work in unity to overcome it. He said, We supported each other in the fight against foreign rule, and we can do it again in this century to create a new world order that will ensure the welfare of our citizens. Your voice is India's voice, and your priorities are India's priorities. Modi was speaking at the first session of the two-day special virtual, which began on January 12th. He added, India has always shared its developmental experience with our brothers of the Global South. As India begins its G20 presidency this year, it is natural that our aim is to amplify the voice of the Global South. Stressing the need to deal with the challenges of the Global South, he said that the countries should work together for the global agenda to respond, recognize, respect, reform, that is, recognize the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, respect international law and territorial sovereignty, and reform international institutions, including the UN, among other things. Well, rain and snowfall are predicted as cold wave and dense fog continues to engulf major parts of North India. India Meteorological Department on January 12th predicted that the western Himalayan region is likely to see rainfall and snowfall for the next 2 days. Following this, a fresh spell of cold waves and dense fog is likely to engulf parts of North India. IMD also said that northeast monsoons have ceased in the southern parts of the country. Cold wave to severe cold wave conditions was predicted over some parts of North Rajasthan, and cold wave condition in isolated pockets likely over Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh on 15th, 16th and 17th of January, over interior Karnataka on 13th and 14th, and over Madhya Pradesh on 16th and 17th January. Change in minimum temperatures is very unlikely over many parts of northwest India and adjoining central India during the next 48 hours, and fall by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius from 14th January 2023. Isolated light rainfall is likely over Punjab, Haryana and adjoining areas of West Uttar Pradesh on the 12th and 13th of January 2023. A fresh spell of dense to very dense fog is very likely in isolated some pockets during the night and morning hours over Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh and Delhi and Uttar Pradesh from the 14th to 17th. Dense fog is very likely in isolated pockets over Jammu Division, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand during 15th to 17th and over North Madhya Pradesh during 16th to 17th January. Winter solstice is being celebrated in North India, popularly known as Lohri. Citizens of India celebrate the festival by singing folk songs, dancing and relishing food around the bonfire. Although the cold wave is continuing in North India, Indians, especially from the states of Punjab, Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, are celebrating the festival of Lohri, which marks the end of winter solstice and the beginning of longer days. It is celebrated every year during the month of Posh, a day before Makar Sankranti, usually on January 13th with much fanfare. Lohri celebrates the harvest of Rabi crops in North India, and one would typically find gajak, revari, popcorns, puffed rice and other traditional delicacies made of sesame seeds in a Lohri plate, which is usually adorned with a fresh harvest. Lohri has all the fun traditions which are much awaited by people around this time of the year. Singing folk songs, dancing to the tunes of dhol, performing bhangra, gidda and chaja, relishing makki ki roti and sarso ka saag and munching gajak, mungfali, tilkut, puffed rice, revari, popcorn by the bonfire are some of the popular Lohri rituals. NRIs residing in 10 countries can now use the UPI payment system to send and receive money from their domestic bank accounts. Non-resident Indians from 10 countries can now use India's unified payments interface to send and receive money if their domestic bank accounts are linked to their phone numbers abroad. The list of countries includes Singapore, Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Oman, Qatar, the US, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and the United Kingdom. Retail payments umbrella body, the National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, said it could extend this to other countries in the future. It has asked members participating in UPI to ensure that only those accounts complying with the Foreign Exchange Management Act use this facility. This has allowed the Indian diaspora to use it not just when they come to India, but also when they are abroad. They can make instant transfers and use it on e-commerce portals. The policy will benefit leaders as well, since it will help them keep the transactions flowing in these bank accounts. NPCI said that all member banks must follow the directives by April 30th. It is a move that would really benefit the NRIs. The major convenience factor would be in the form of payments for NRIs when they visit India and pay easily across millions of Indian merchants accepting UPI. NRIs will no longer need to use their international cards while in India. As per data submitted in the Lok Sabha in February, there were 13.5 million Indians living abroad. NPCI's decision will help widen an already popular payment mechanism that in December touched 12.8 trillion rupees in transactions. It is considered a great initiative for widening digital payments, and Indians living overseas will now be able to experience a seamless payment journey along with instant transactions and unmatched convenience. India and the US have launched a new trade policy forum working group on resilient trade to enhance bilateral dialogue. Indian Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal and his American counterpart, Trade Representative Catherine Tai, concluded the two-day US-India Trade Policy Forum on January 11th in Washington, D.C. The two countries launched a new trade policy working group on resilient trade, which enables officials to deepen bilateral dialogue and enhance their trade relationships, resiliency, and sustainability to withstand current and future global challenges. The two sides had hoped to work together to resolve outstanding trade issues which require convergence, such as visa delays and the revoking of India's trade benefits under the Generalized System of Preferences (GSP) program in 2019. India beating visiting Sri Lanka by 4 wickets to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the three-match ODI series. A spirited performance by Indian bowlers helped India to restrict Sri Lanka to a below-par score of 215 and win the second ODI in Kolkata. Pacer Mohammad Siraj and race spinner Kuldeep Yadav took 3 wickets, each as India bowled out Sri Lanka for 215 in 39.4 overs at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. After electing to bat first, debutant Nuanidu Fernando stood out with his 50, but the team lost wickets regularly. Siraj struck first as he bowled Avishka Fernando for 20 with an in-swinging delivery that took the inside edge of the bat to crash against the middle stump. Nuanidu put on 73 runs for the second wicket with Kushal Mendis before Kuldeep broke through. In reply, India lost Rohit for 17 of Chamika Karunaratne after a brisk start, and fellow opener Shubham Gill, who hit 21 of 12 balls, soon followed his captain 3 balls later. Fast bowler Lahiru Kumara bowled Kohli, who scored a match-winning 113 in the opening ODI for 4, and Shreyas Iyer departed on 28. India were in trouble at 86-4 with skipper Rohit Sharma and star batsman Virat Kohli back in the pavilion, but KL Rahul anchored the chase as the hosts got home in 43.2 overs. Rahul, who hit just 6 boundaries in his 103-ball stay, put on 75 with Hardik Pandya to steady the innings in a watchful partnership. The hosts took an unassailable 2-0 series lead with the third match to be played on January 15 in Thiruvananthapuram. Well, Bollywood actor Kartik Aaryan is ready to kickstart the year 2023 with a bang as the trailer of his film Shehzada is released on 12 January. After much hype about his rugged avatar in his upcoming film Shehzada, Kartik Aaryan is ready to take on the bull by its horns as he looks intriguing in the trailer of the film. In the trailer, Kartik oozes full rugged vibes wearing a shirt, denim and bandana in the Hindi remake of the film Ala Vaikunthapuramalu. The Shehzada trailer says Kartik Aaryan get into the quirky character as he blends dollops of humor with slow-motion action sequences. Kartik Aaryan stars in Shehzada opposite Kriti Sanon, who brings a refreshing character to the screen. Kartik has also turned producer for the film Shehzada, marks the return of Kartik Aaryan to the big screen after his previous blockbuster Bhul Bhulaiya 2, directed by Anis Bazmi. The film, which is bankrolled by Kartik Aaryan, Bhushan Kumar, Allu Arvind and Aman Gill, has music by Pritham. Shehzada will release on February 10th on Valentine's weekend. Well, that's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
Thank you very much for that report, Chandrakala Chowdhury. The excellent reporting, and I think she's just doing a wonderful job, amazing job. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin our event series for this month, and let's see what are the events taking place right here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in this segment. It's been wonderful having your company here as usual. It is always so good to see you. And now we have started our the event series once again. Things are happening once again, and wishing everyone the best for the Lunar New Year. As we know, there is lots of functions and events and which will go on for a little while. And it is wonderful to see that people can get together once again, restriction free, and that is such a wonderful thing. Hey, it's been wonderful having your journey with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow. And don't forget, tomorrow we'll also have the real estate update with Usha Chandra. For now, it's goodbye from us. As I mentioned before, it's so good to have your company. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.